What made the wandering hunters slowly become the settlers of the earth? At what moment did humankind decide to stop the endless search, to stay, to build, and to create a new world? The Epipaleolithic was the end of one world and the dawn of another, an age when humanity stepped out from the darkness of the caves into the light of the first villages and rewriting its destiny forever. Archaeologists define the period between 18,000 and 12,000 years ago in the Middle East and Eastern Europe as the Epipaleolithic or Mesolithic era. The humans of this age were the same Homo sapiens sapiens of the Upper Paleolithic, yet profound changes had begun to transform the way they lived. This was the final and shortest chapter of the Paleolithic, a brief interlude that, around 12,000 years ago, gave way to the Neolithic, the age of settled life, agriculture, and animal domestication. In a word, the age of food production. Though shorter than the eras before and after it, this period played a decisive role in the story of humankind. The Italian archaeologist Margherita Musi called it the Great Change, a time when shifts in climate, technology, and economy prepared humans to cross the threshold into the Neolithic Revolution. During the Upper Paleolithic, the first signs of local and regional traditions had begun to appear. Traditions deeply tied to the cognitive revolution and the emergence of complex languages. If we view human culture as a long process of increasing complexity, then the Epipaleolithic marks the moment when languages and customs became more diverse, more rooted in place. Cultural elements, from clothing styles and body painting to the shapes of shelters, homes, and even dialects, grew richer and more varied, just like the stone tools that accompanied them. But perhaps the most important factor in the rise of local cultures was a simple one. People stopped moving as much. As communities stayed longer in one place, for generations upon the same soil, they came to know their surroundings more deeply, building intimate connections with the land and crafting cultures that were truly their own. One striking example comes from the site of Mesolithic in Ukraine, dating to around 15,000 years ago. There, archaeologists discovered dwellings built entirely from the bones of mammoths, structures astonishingly similar to the houses later built by the first Neolithic villagers. Humanity learned that to remain, it was not enough to fight. One had to learn how to find a new balance with the earth and its creatures. The storage of food, though still limited in scale, allowed Epipaleolithic humans to remain in one place for longer periods. New technologies for preserving food began to emerge, digging storage pits into frozen ground in northern regions, salting meat, or drying it in the open air. Even plants were now gathered and stored, an early attempt to secure the uncertain future of survival. By the end of this era, human mastery of hunting had reached its peak. Many of the great beasts, mammoths, giant deer, and woolly rhinoceroses that had roamed the earth for hundreds of thousands of years vanished from existence. Just as other human species had disappeared before, now it was the turn of these ancient giants. But with their disappearance, humanity lost one of its most vital sources of food. Forced to adapt, humans turned increasingly to smaller prey, birds, fish, mollusks, and snails, whatever could fill the table of life. And in these final centuries of the age, something remarkable happened. Humanity began to choose. Hunters deliberately avoided killing pregnant animals or the young of their species, perhaps the first spark of a new consciousness, one that would one day lead to the preservation and ultimately the domestication of life itself. Sometimes the greatest revolutions begin not on a grand scale, but in the smallest of gestures. In the hands of humankind, a tiny blade could forge an entirely new world. The hallmark of tool-making in the Epipaleolithic age was the emergence of microliths, small tools with immense potential. As their name suggests, they were tiny, yet their use transformed human life. By embedding these minute blades into grooves of bone or wood, humans created sickles for harvesting wild grains, or barbed arrowheads designed for fishing. In this way, small fragments of stone, when combined with wooden or bone handles, became versatile composite tools, ingenious responses to the growing demands of daily life. Another defining feature of this era was the standardization of tool sizes. Unlike earlier times, tools were now crafted in nearly uniform dimensions. It was also in this age that humans began using the bow and arrow widely for hunting, a leap forward in precision and range. Yet perhaps the most revolutionary innovation was the use of poison in hunting. This single breakthrough changed everything. Where once hunters needed to strike an animal several times, now a single arrow, tipped with venom, could bring it down. The earliest traces of this practice come from Border Cave in South Africa, dating to around 24,000 years ago. Evidence of similar techniques in the Middle East dates to about 13,000 years ago, including ostrich eggshells used as bowls and wooden or bone stirrers employed in mixing the poisons. It is likely that humans of this era had already mastered knowledge of natural toxins, from the skins of toads and salamanders to the venom of snakes and scorpions. Many of these poisons were harmless when swallowed, but once they entered the bloodstream, they could clot the blood or trigger fatal nervous shocks. And therein lay the hunter's secret. The meat of an animal killed by a poisoned arrow could still be safely eaten, a testament to the early humans' deep and dangerous understanding of nature's chemistry. What led archaeologists to distinguish the Epipaleolithic from the Upper Paleolithic was not merely a difference in tools or dates, but a profound transformation in human behavior and perception. For the first time, in the cave paintings of this era, humans themselves stepped into the center of the image. If in the Upper Paleolithic it was the animals that filled the cave walls, now it was man who painted himself. Man in the act of hunting. Man asserting his mastery over the world around him. The cave walls became mirrors of the human mind, and what was etched upon them told the story of a changing self-awareness, of a being beginning to see itself not as one among many creatures, but as something apart. This simple shift in imagery was, in truth, the sign of a deeper transformation. After tens of thousands of years living alongside nature and gathering experience, humans no longer saw themselves as merely one among the animals. Gradually, they began to imagine themselves as masters of the beasts and rulers of their surroundings. And this new vision, proud, dominant, and commanding, was vividly etched into the rock art of the time, a testament to a mind that no longer thought only of survival, but dreamed of power and control. The Epipaleolithic was the final echo of the Age of Hunters, a brief yet decisive chapter in the story of humankind. It was during this time that humanity learned not to remain a mere subject of nature's will, but to become the architect of its own destiny. And from these very first steps, the seeds of the second great revolution in human history were sown. In the Upper Paleolithic and the ages before it, the harsh, unyielding laws of nature ruled over human fate. But around 18,000 years ago, in the Epipaleolithic, for the first time, humans began to push back against that fate, to master it. Through the creation of new cultures and innovative technologies, humankind set foot upon a path from which there would be no return. They still honored the hunt as their way of life. Their numbers grew, and they took full advantage of all that the wild world offered. Yet, the Epipaleolithic, though short-lived, was a turning point, a bridge between two worlds, one in which humans were still children of nature, and another in which they slowly became its masters. In this age, humanity learned to claim a new place in existence, through tools, through art, through ritual, and through the storing of food. No longer mere wandering hunters, they now stood on the threshold of a discovery that would change not just their way of life, but the fate of our entire species. At the end of this era, humanity inevitably set foot on a path whose consequences it could not yet foresee. After tens of thousands of years living as hunter-gatherers, humans began to produce food. They tilled the earth for the first time, tamed animals, and built villages that carried within them the seeds of civilization itself. This monumental transformation, known as the Agricultural Revolution, marked the dawn of farming and animal domestication, beginning around 12,000 years ago in the Middle East, ushering in what we now call the Neolithic Age. A revolution that severed humanity's ancient bond with nature, disrupted its timeless balance, and whose consequences still echo in the fabric of our world today.